Okay, welcome back to our series of instructional videos on the Entopia simulation. This particular aspect of the game, we're going to deal with pricing. Okay, pricing is an important aspect of the Entopia simulation. You're going to be setting prices to sell to end consumers. You're going to also be setting prices to sell to other teams in the game. Okay, this particular aspect might look like it's a review of one of your first year marketing courses, but it's amazing how we forget to we forget things from year to year, such as how to determine a markup or objective-based pricing, and other things like how to set prices based on what your competitors are doing. Okay. Setting a price is fairly straightforward in the game, and we saw how to do that in a previous video in terms of setting a price for both standard and deluxe prices, and how to do that on the website. So the other aspect that's important in the game is actual price changes. So you'll find that in the data log you'll find something called minimum price change, which is a constraint in the game. So if you're selling a product for $10, you might find that the minimum price change is $1. So in other words, you're only allowed to discount your price by at least $1. So you can go down from 10 to 9, but you can't go from, say, 10 to $9.99. That's just to set a limit on price changes like that. You may also find in some cases the administrator may decide to set a maximum price. So for instance, you may not be able to sell products for you may not be able to go above $500 for a particular product, and that's really up to the discretion of the administrator running the game. Now, in terms of standard and deluxe goods, this is sometimes a bit confusing in the game and hard for students to grasp. And it's important that you understand the difference between your standard and deluxe products when you're going to set prices in a particular period. So if we look at this, I've got a little section cut out of the output here with ending inventory. So let's say that this is at the end of period 4, and this is what you have available. These are X products. You have 10,000 units available of X2. You also have 20,000 units available of X3. So that's right now at the end of period 4, and you're making a decision for period 5. So if you're pricing to sell X right now, you would set a standard price for your grade 2s and a deluxe price for your grade 3s. Okay? So you're going to base your price on what's in your output at this particular point in time. Okay? Now, sometimes what happens is you might decide to do something different with one of your grades. So let's say we're going to send this 10,000 units of X2 to somebody else. So we're just going to put that on a plane and ship it over to China, where there's a company there ready and waiting for them. So really what ends up happening is you have 0 X2s and 20,000 X3s. It's important still that you set a price for deluxe in this particular case. So even though these are gone, these X3s are still your deluxe grade. So always base your prices on what's available in the current inventory. Okay? If you set a standard price in this particular case, consumers are going to show up looking to buy standard products, and they're not going to be available because you've already shipped them out. Okay? And that results in some consumer goodwill loss. So you have to make sure that you do that accordingly. The only time that's going to change is if you receive something by air. So let's say this 10,000 X2 is shipped off, and then you receive a shipment of, say, X4. Then what would happen is the X3s would then become your standard grade, and the X4s would be your deluxe grade. That's the only time it's going to change. Okay? So just remember that when you're going to set your price. Okay? And I spent a long time drawing this very complicated diagram here that tells you exactly what's happening at what particular time. So in this case, you're submitting your decision. The first thing that happens is the plane leaves with products going to other teams. The next thing that happens is a plane comes in, okay, receiving any goods that you have ordered from other teams. Then the grades will be reset if necessary. So in that previous decision, or that previous slide, when we had received X4, then that grade reset for standard and deluxe would occur. But that only happens if necessary. Okay, it doesn't happen automatically. Okay. The next thing that happens is trucks leave with the inventory you've sent to other teams. So you put things on a truck and off they go. Okay, so this allows you to ship stuff that may have arrived by plane by truck. Okay, then you send reserved X is sent to your warehouse for consumer sales. So what that does is it reserves it in your warehouse so that it's available for consumer sales, which happens later. The next thing that happens is your X is sent to your Y factories for use. And then anything that's left over in the warehouse is made available for sale to end consumers, provided that you set a particular price for that. The next thing that happens is the finished goods from the factories, X and Y, go to inventory, and then trucks that arrive that have inventory that you have purchased from other teams. Okay, so if somebody else sends you inventory, you'll see that it arrives right at the end of the period, and you'll see that it's in your inventory when you get your output. Okay. Pricing methods, really this is a whole balancing act. How are you going to set your prices? There's a whole bunch of different things that you need to consider. One is your break-even calculations. So you're going to have to figure out exactly what your break-even point is. And some students find this challenging. You have to look at a whole bunch of things. What are your variable costs, and then what should you include in those in your fixed costs? Do you include depreciation? Do you include an allocation for research and development and some for advertising? Okay. There's no right answer here, but there are certainly better answers than some. So I find that good teams have a really good handle on their costs and exactly how much it costs to produce and what they need to sell things at a very minimum in order for them to make some money. Okay. There's also competitive pricing aspects. You'll find that there's a couple of market research items that give you what prices other firms are selling things for. That has to be taken into consideration. So sometimes if you're the highest price in the market, you may not sell any goods because the consumers are going to flock to the teams with the lower prices. Okay. You can also use consumer-based pricing. So there's market research in the game that gives you an estimate of what consumers are willing to pay. So it may be that consumers are willing to spend $80, competitors are selling it for $60, and your break-even tells you have to sell it for at least $65. So there's a little bit of a paradox there. What are you going to do? And you'll have to keep that in mind as you go throughout the game. Okay, and that concludes our little section on pricing. Good luck. Hope you make lots of money.